Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today at our Sanctuary Graduate Social Mobility Conference. I know that we've got a lot of people who are going to be drifting in over the next few minutes, and it's so lovely to see so many familiar names here today, and a really warm welcome to those joining us for the first time. Hopefully you can see my screen. I'm probably going to get a yes from my colleague just to confirm that you can see my screen, which is going to be good. And we'll just allow a couple of more people to join before we get started. So just bear with us for a couple of minutes because I can see lots of people starting to drip in and join us. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. For those that have just joined, welcome. We are just getting started. Lots of people joining us this morning, which is fantastic, and hopefully a really exciting couple of hours ahead of us in terms of the sessions that we've got coming up. So to get started, as people are joining us, our session this morning, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Eleanor. For those who don't know me, I've been at Sanctuary Graduates for over 8.5 years now, working with many of you on various campaigns in the past. I helped to set up our partnership with the Social Mobility Foundation a good few years ago now, and levelling the playing field is something that, for candidates, is something that I'm really passionate about. I've seen firsthand the impact that good social mobility strategies can have on students, really seeing them grow in confidence and feel like they have a chance when they're making applications. I've also been part of some quite difficult conversations with hiring managers, really pushing them to think beyond the status quo of what good looks like and to consider people who may not have come from what they consider their traditional backgrounds. I think we've come a really long way when we've been challenging assumptions as an industry. But this conference today is going to show why it is still important that we drive forward change and continue to improve our practices. So the conference today will be in two parts. The first part will be with Megan from the Social Mobility Foundation, who will be telling us more about the index and the state of the play in the UK at the moment. And then our second half at 11 o'clock will be a roundtable discussion with Amazon, Schroders and Stagecoach. Please feel free to use the chat function throughout these sessions as we will be asking any of the questions that you send to us, and hopefully you'll find them really interesting. And please do use our hashtag, which you should be able to see throughout our slides and on my background to post your insights about the day on LinkedIn. We'd love to see you tag us. We'd love to see what you're thinking. So before we get into the first session, just a very quick introduction to Sanctuary Graduates. For those who don't know us very well and want to know more about how we support over 100 businesses with all of their aspects of their early careers and diversity initiatives, really attracting diverse apprentices, interns, placement students and graduates. Hopefully, this is where the technical issues start because it's not letting me jump onto the next screen. So just while I'm getting that set up, I will come back to who Sanctuary are. But Megan, perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself and I'll just get things working on my side so it's not being temperamental.
Hi, yeah. I'm Megan. I'm from the SMF, the Social Mobility Foundation. I think a lot of you on the call will know who we are. But we're a national charity based across the country. So we're based in London, we're based in Scotland, Manchester, all over the country. And we work towards social mobility. But yeah, I'm also an example of social mobility myself. I don't mention that much. But yeah, I'm from Doncaster. My dad worked for Network Rail, just on the tracks, same job since he was like 16. And then I was lucky enough to get into good university, and yeah, kind of achieve this social mobility, which is super interesting, really helps me in this job. So but yeah, that's who I am. That's who Social Mobility Foundation are.
Thank you, Megan. So my slides are still being a little bit funny, but I'll tell you a little bit more about who Sanctuary Graduates are. So we're very much a one-stop shop working as an extension of your team to deliver what you need. We're not a jobs board, but a service business that can reach any student across all UK schools and universities. We work alongside to help you solve your attraction pain points and diversity headaches. Right, let's see if this is gonna let me do things now, fingers crossed. And I'm going to try and share my screen. Aha, okay, we've got some success here. So I'm just going to share my screen again so that you can see what I'm talking about. And hopefully you can all see that again. Okay. So yeah, one-stop shop. So our network, and this is really what underpins all our services, the ability to send emails to any student studying for any subject at all UK universities with the data to tell us where the diversity is in which universities, in which courses. And we also have the ability to reach all students in year 13 and year 11 across 4,000 schools and colleges that we've built relationships with over the last 18 months. So we're very much thought leaders within diversity. We won the Best Single Purpose Attraction Activation Award at last year's Student Recruitment Awards with the ISE, driving female STEM candidates to Rolls-Royce motor cars. And we use a combination of all our services to win this. Use a combination of all our services to win this award: female student ambassadors, targeted email marketing, and things like in-person female diversity events. And we're very much experts in diversity. You probably recognise this slide. Certainly a lot of you might have watched the BBC documentary with Amol Rajan. And diversity is very much in our DNA, not just the people that work in the business that will be running the campaigns for you, but also our relationships with the universities that are born out of the support for their widening participation cohorts. And well over half the companies that come to us for support have a diversity objective very much in mind. Of course, we are also official partners, as I mentioned, with the Social Mobility Foundation, and Megan has already introduced herself. And Megan, what you were saying there is so interesting. I similarly am from, not the kind of typical background. I come from Boston and Lincolnshire, and I've already spoken many times before about how actually improving, things for the people all around the country is so important. So we'll be coming back to Megan very shortly. We work with customers across all sectors, including finance, asset management, law, utilities, engineering, technology, FMCG, and many more. As I mentioned, you'll be hearing from some of our clients in the next session discussing their work in the social mobility space, including Stagecoach, Schroders, and Amazon. And then here is how we support employers. Firstly, the full attraction partner. That's when employers want one attraction partner to take care of all of their attraction strategy, sharing responsibility for making sure that they get the diverse applications they need. The three products that most firms who do their own recruitment use are for users for our email marketing, dedicated diversity events, and student ambassadors. And this is using the networks that we discussed. And also about 50 companies outsource their recruitment to us, anything from 1 to 2 grads and interns and apprentices, up to 200 plus of those. And we also look after the screening for a number of businesses, the heavy lifting on your behalf to deal with very heavy volume. And we know how heavy that volume can be at times. Then just finally, as I mentioned, our networks. And these are the networks we've built at UK universities, which really underpins all our services. A big database of talent we can segment by all diversity characteristics. Also, we have relationships with 58 mostly non-Russell Group universities where we can send an email to any of their students. We also have relationships with academic departments across all disciplines in most Russell Group universities. And finally, student societies. We sponsor dozens of diverse societies, including Afro-Caribbean societies, women in societies, and lots of the 93% clubs. So please reach out to me or somebody else at Sanctuary Graduates if you'd like to explore a partnership with us and learn a little bit more about what we do. So we are moving on now, and I'm going to be handing it over to Megan. Megan has already introduced herself, but Megan, perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, I'll share my screen in a second, but today I'm going to go over first of all, the state of the nation. So the current landscape of social mobility within the UK and what that looks like right now, taking into account the pandemic, the cost of living crisis, and then move on to what people are doing to help, and then what you guys can do as well.
Fantastic.
So yeah, a little bit of some maybe depressing stats and then moving on to a bit more hope. But yeah, I'll share my screen now.
Fantastic. Just a reminder, whilst Megan's sharing her screen, please do post any questions that you have in our chat function. We do have a moderator and I'll be collecting all those questions and hopefully firing them Megan's way. So any questions you've got, throw them in throughout, and as we get towards the end, I'll be asking Megan. Just a reminder as well, don't forget to use our hashtag, which is in the top corner of my screen. It looks backwards to me, but I think it's just because it's mirrored on my side, so hopefully it's not all kind of backwards for you. But if you see anything you want to carry on that discussion, please do post it on LinkedIn, and we'd love to pick it up.
It's not letting me share my screen.
Oh, okay, right. Let's this is okay. You should be able to, right, let's try that,
Yep.
and hopefully that will work.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Right. So, sorry. There we go. Yeah, can you see that now? Yeah, perfect. Okay, cool. So yeah, just about who the SMF are. Kind of already spoken about that, but yeah, we seek to improve social mobility basically across the country. So offices are got one in Glasgow, Manchester, Birmingham, Newcastle, London. I'll definitely be forgetting some, Liverpool. So yeah, spread across the country, not just a London-centric charity, which is really good and really important to me as well. So at the SMF, we have 3 different ways of working towards social mobility within the country, where everyone can flourish regardless of their background. So we have our APP, that's our Aspiring Professionals Programme, and that's direct intervention with young people. So it's the support we offer to our students aged between first year of sixth form, so about 16, to their first job. And yeah, we support students from less advantaged backgrounds all the way through this journey towards employment and throughout their first jobs as well. But I'll expand on that a little bit more in a bit. I'll work with employers. So we help employers on their own journey towards social mobility as well, and helping social mobility from within their organisations. So we do this through our employer index, which is a self-audit benchmarking tool that organisations can enter to gather feedback on how socially mobile their company is, and then use this feedback to increase their social mobility. And then we have our campaigning arm. So this campaigns for social mobility on a wider scale. So pushing for widespread institutional change. We've been running for 18 years, so it's our 20th anniversary coming up, which is super exciting. And we've helped thousands of young people during this period. So I mentioned the purpose of today earlier, but yeah, we're going to go over what social mobility is, discuss the state of the nation, what the landscape is within the UK, and then move on to a bit more action, a bit more hope, what you guys can do, what other people do, what you're already doing to help with social mobility. So I think it is worth looking at what social mobility is, just so we're on the same page. So the Social Mobility Commission explained that it's the link between a person's occupation or income and the occupation or income of their parents. So where there is a strong link, there's a lower level of social mobility, and where there is a weak link, there's a higher level of social mobility. So the link between an individual's outcomes and then the income of the income and the occupation of their parents is what social mobility is. Sorry, my slides are playing up for me. Sorry,
Okay.
1 second.
We can see
So,
state of the nation at the moment.
can you see? Oh, yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. It's really weird. Sorry, let me just share again.
That's okay. It's not really a conference unless we have some technical difficulties. So that's
Yeah, of course. I don't know why it's doing that. They're just not moving for me.
it was a bit
Um,
laggy. So we just had a note in the Q&A function. Somebody says that the chat is disabled. That's absolutely fine. If you should be able to have access to the Q&A. So if you want to post any questions in the Q&A, but if you're having any problems, hopefully the Q&A is working. If it's not, you can just drop me an email or one of my colleagues, James or Tom. You'll see if you've got any questions that you'd like us to ask. But I believe we've already had a couple of questions come in on the Q&A, so I think it should be working fine. But just
sorry,
let us know if there's any issues.
1 second. I don't know why it's doing this. Really odd. Okay, you might see yourself quickly. Can you see that now?
Yeah, that's come up for us, Megan. It's just not.
Oh, great. Okay. I don't know why it was doing that. It just wasn't moving for me.
It's not in presenting mode for us, so I don't know if it needs
No,
to.
I'm not sure why it's doing that. Ah, here we go. Oh, it's always the case, isn't it?
Uh,
Oh, perfect. Yeah, now it's moving. It wasn't moving, so.
Megan, we've got the notes version of that when it was showing then, so I don't know if that's.
Oh, gosh. 1 second. Maybe I have to stop sharing quickly. I'm not sure why it's doing that.
Sorry, everybody. We'll get this
Yeah,
sorted.
sorry. Always the case.
But Megan, it might be when you go on PowerPoint options, you can present as an individual. That might work. That's what was causing me problems on our side.
Yeah, it's always the case. Okay. How about this?
Yeah, and then just need it in presenter mode. Hopefully
Yeah,
that will.
that should work now.
Okay.
Yeah?
Oh, it's still showing up as the notes version.
I
Perhaps
don't know why it's
the
doing
presenter
that
mode
again.
down at the bottom, just near the Zoom one.
Oh,
Try that one.
sorry about this. Really annoying. Okay, hopefully now this should work. I'm trying to share it through online instead. Hopefully that will work. There we go. Is that working?
Yeah, that's working.
Perfect. Sorry, it must have been my Microsoft Office playing up. Not sure why. Okay, sorry. Okay, I've gone over what social mobility is. But yeah, a few other definitions that are useful, which sometimes I get confused about. So the difference between socioeconomic background, social class, disadvantaged, low income, things like that. So socioeconomic background is the social and economic circumstances an individual comes from. So this can be objectively measured by capturing information on parental occupation. So like I said, my dad, he worked for Network Rail. Businesses gather that. So sometimes if I apply for a job, something like that, they'll gather that information. Super useful. Type of education, free school meals. So that's also information that we gather at the SMF. Social class. So that takes into account the range of socio-cultural and geographic factors and identities. So for example, a postcode, something like that. And then, yeah, it's worth noting that objective measures of income may not match a person's perspective of their social class status. So sometimes someone might not identify as working class, but they may fit into that bracket, or they may identify as working class, but they may not fit into the income bracket. It's quite objective sometimes. Something I thought was nice to look at, and I know it's a little bit depressing, is some social mobility stats. So 40% of UK adults think of themselves as working class. So that's the social mobility barometer, 2021, which I found quite surprising. I thought it would be less than that. So within the UK, the estimated number of generations it would take for those born in low-income families to approach the mean income in their society is 5 generations. So that's higher than most of the world, which is crazy. Yeah, we've got really low social mobility within the UK. Adults with lower working class parents are about 3 times as likely, so that's 30% against 11%, to be in a working class occupation themselves, compared with adults with higher professional parents. And then the attainment gap, so the difference between disadvantaged pupils and then their peers who may be advantaged, has narrowed only by 7% between 2010 and 2021. So super small, not great. In education, people whose parents have degrees are far more likely, so that's 64% against 18% to get a degree, than those whose parents have no qualifications. That's why when we talk to students and they apply for our program, we take into account first generation, and lots of universities do that, and lots of companies as well. It's super important, and yeah, it's a key kind of factor in social mobility. And then, yeah, graduates from poorer backgrounds earn half as much in their first job. So there are a lot of factors that come into that. This might be the lack of confidence when it comes to negotiating salary. It might have something to do with the lack of support when it comes to CVs, applications, confidence in applying for certain jobs, confidence in themselves. So that's something we try and get around as well. And then, yeah, 78% of young people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds believe the pandemic has made it more difficult for them to get a job. I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a second, but the pandemic, cost of living crisis, has had a massive impact on young people, more of an impact than I was even expecting, really. But it has, and it seems to be a common theme that we hear from our young people at SMF. So the state of the nation. In a nutshell, the state of social mobility within the UK is not too great right now. I think the cost of living crisis made that worse. It's kind of made us take a little bit of a step back. But yeah, in 2023, where you grew up, where you went to school, and what your parents did are still real predictors of education and career outcomes in the UK. So talent is evenly spread across the country, all areas, all classes, but opportunity isn't. So we work towards making that a bit fairer, and so do Sanctuary Grads. So yeah, the UK actually has lower social mobility compared with all major EU countries, which is really shocking. And the attainment gap between those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and their more privileged peers is actually growing, so it's increasing. And yet, only 35% of adults believe that everyone has a fair chance to go as far as their hard work will take them. So they believe they can work as hard as they want, but they won't go as far as they think they could. Yeah, the result is we continue to see certain professions dominated by the same people that was 10 years, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And yeah, it leads to a lack of diversity and a lack of talent in certain professions as well. You're not getting the talent that you want or need. So that brings me on to the impact of the pandemic. So like I said, the pandemic has had quite a lot of impact on our young people, and it's been quite negative. So yeah, the figures that I just shared on that slide before were pre-pandemic, they were 2019. And it's taken a step back since then. It shone a light on things like tech inequality. For example, students were unable to undertake certain studies because they didn't have laptops at home. And then the cost of living crisis is also now combined with this. We haven't really had this chance to recover. It's just combined and made things a lot worse. And it's had a real impact on young people. So our Unheard Voices polling, which is a poll that we do of people up until the age of 25, shows that 64% of young people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds said that the rising cost of living was a concern for them about starting university. So they were put off starting university because of that, compared to only 42% of people from higher socioeconomic backgrounds. And research from the Sutton Trust found that around half of undergrad students have missed classes this academic year in order to do paid work, which, yeah, super shocking. And then one student even said that they were only in 2 meals a day and skipping meals and walking to campus to avoid paying for transport because of the cost of living crisis. So yeah, you can see that both the pandemic and cost of living crisis still having significant impacts on the education and future of all of our young people. Not just those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, but obviously it is a bit worse for those. So, a bit more positive note now, how we at SMF tackle the challenge. So we have our Aspiring Professionals programme, we have our Social Mobility Employer Index, and we have our campaigning arm. So our APP programme is for our students. So we directly support our young people, nurturing their knowledge, confidence, networks to support them in realising their academic and professional potential. So here we work with a lot of different partners, and they help by giving our students the skills. They'll give them internships, support, mentors to help them in their journey. We welcome over 2,000 high achieving young people every year. So it's a lot of people, and it's great. We offer skills sessions, all of the stuff that I wish I had got when I was younger as well. Didn't even know what networking was until I got to uni. And then we have our index, which is for our employers to ensure that they're working towards social mobility and they're helping working class people get into careers and then also get on in those careers too. And yeah, it's the main authority on employer-led social mobility, and we get a lot of submissions every year, but I'll go into more detail in a second. And then we have our campaigning arm. So we campaign for major change throughout the country. Like I said earlier, we actually had an End Laptop Poverty campaign around the pandemic, which was super successful. So things like that. Why social mobility is important. This, I think, is one of my favourite points when discussing social mobility with employers, because it's all well and good saying we have an issue, but why is it actually important, not just for the country, but for individuals and for companies? Because it isn't just about meeting these requirements, it actually really benefits companies. So yeah, within the UK, we actually have a class pay gap of over £6,000 a year. So we have our class pay gap day, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about or take part in. So that's when those from working class backgrounds in professional occupations basically stop getting paid. And it happens on the 17th of November this year. So compared to their peers, that's when they stop getting paid. So kind of like the gender pay gap as well, which is super interesting. So yeah, it's bad for the economy. We can see it through that. It's bad for business, and it's also unfair for young people who have the talent but lack the opportunities to thrive. Creates social and political problems. Communities feel left out. Young people underemployed. It stops certain communities thriving too. And yeah, unlocking the potential in people will improve our economic performance, productivity, and skills across the country, but also in companies. So yeah, not focusing on social mobility in the workplace means missing out on attracting, recruiting, and retaining the top talent. Diverse organizations actually foster innovation, design thinking, and critical problem solving. These skills that you might miss out on if you didn't recruit from certain backgrounds. And it's also important for public confidence in institutions. So inclusive leaders build trust and create high-performing, diverse teams with different perspectives. Even if it isn't a creative industry, we still need this creative thinking. And it strengthens other DEI work. It's like a whole person approach, bringing your whole self to work. Resilience as well, cost consciousness and plain speaking are really valuable skills. And then it also brings in this broader range of experience. So it guards against this group thinking and helps people be critical at all times of themselves, of their work, thought processes, and then that in turn strengthens a business. And yeah, I put this quote here, like 42% of people think that employers should take more action towards social mobility. So what exactly are employers doing? And why are they recognizing this importance of social mobility? So responding to COVID still, a lot of companies have done this by removing academic requirements because they see that exam results may be impacted by COVID, especially for people from lower economic backgrounds. Recognizing cost of living crisis, so financial support measures, support when attending an interview, so maybe travel, things like that, and addressing their own class pay gaps, so collecting data or even entering our index. So what action can companies take? So you can sign up as a mentor for the SMF. I'll provide some more details after, which is super nice. Might be the first ever professional interaction that a young person has. Consider a lunch and learn session to start a conversation at work. There should be a D there. Collect data, which is free. You can use our toolkit to collect some data or enter our employer index. Yeah, getting started. So the first ways that you can collect data is just asking the questions. So the workplace, yeah, is as important as the classroom for improving social mobility. So collecting these data points from employees is pretty useful. Anonymous, obviously. So what was the main occupation of your main household earner when you were aged 14? What type of school did you attend? And did you receive free school meals at any point? Key questions to determine whether someone is working class, low socioeconomic background. And I've linked the government toolkit there for collecting data, and I can send that through afterwards. The next
sorry to interrupt. We will be sharing out your slides as well, so people can access all this great information.
Amazing, thank you. That's useful. And the next thing that we have is the Social Mobility Employer Index. I think there are quite a few people on this call that actually enter, which is amazing. This is a benchmarking tool for employers looking to recruit, progress, and retain the very best staff. So like I said earlier, this talent and gaining this talent from a diverse workforce. Yeah, why enter? So if you're at the beginning of your journey or you're more advanced, entering the index is the right thing to do, as you'll receive detailed feedback, detailing where you're performing well. I'll go through the breakdown in a little bit, where you're doing less well and how to improve. So we'll offer advice how to improve. And yeah, employers, tell us how valuable the guidance is in helping them make a plan towards social mobility and putting that into action, and engaging their colleagues and senior stakeholders too, which is super important. Yeah, loads of reasons to enter. You can externally communicate your commitment to social mobility and creating this inclusive space. So you could say, we enter the index. You could do internal work based on the results, and you can attract potential colleagues. So we have done research, and people are more likely to apply when they see that someone is entering the index or committed to social mobility or DEI in general. And yeah, really important for you to take action now so that you can create, implement, and evaluate your social mobility strategy. So who enters the index? Basically, it's a really wide variety of people, from media companies to government departments, the Big Four, Magic Circle law firms, and here you can see a breakdown of sector. So last year we had 143 organizations enter, and 75% of those had submitted entries before. And yeah, you can see that 93.8 of those had said that they enter again to improve their organization. And then I'll go through which areas we assess. So there's a slight change. So if you entered last year, you could probably see a slight change, but very similar still. So we go through the full cycle. So yeah, starting at school to external advocacy. So we recognise that employers must take action to reach diverse talent and get them in, but then ensure that they progress. And then using the information that they've learned from this to advocate externally. I'll go through a few of these. So we've got a few examples on each slide of companies that have done particularly well in each area, which I think is super nice, just to see, might see yourself there. So yeah, the first is schools outreach and work with young people. So in this section, we look at how effectively employers target young people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and whether the outreach provides accessible routes into the profession. And we reward employers that have these well-targeted and well-evaluated employability programs that are accessible to all. The first, and then we have attraction and university outreach. So here we consider the extent to which organisations recruit graduates, apprentices and school leavers to attract a diverse range of applicants and make opportunities accessible to everyone. So it's similar to before, but this is more focused on university outreach. And yeah, we reward employers that are active in emphasising diversity here. Recruitment and selection. So Schroders do super well here. So we examine recruitment and selection that are not based on polish or accent or appearance or behaviours. So we reward those that don't don't emphasise those and consider talent instead. We then have routes into the employer. So yeah, steps that employers are taking to create well-structured routes into organisations. So targeting those that are from low socioeconomic backgrounds. Just a bit conscious of time, actually. And then the next we have, trying to move my slide, there we go. Data collection. So Department for Work and Pensions actually do super well here. It examines how employers collect and analyse their own data. And I will send over that toolkit after, which is in the slide. So you can see that. And then the next is pay, progression, and retention. So yeah, are employees supported? Are working class people supported in the workplace to progress? And yeah, PwC does that really well. The next is culture, internal advocacy. So do you advocate internally for people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds? And is it inclusive? Is it a nice place to work? And then external. So maybe pressure on the public sector, government, anything like that is like our final thing that we analyse. It's just worth noting that not all areas, you don't have to submit to every single one. But there are more details on that in the follow-up that I'll send you. And then we have a few things that companies do that are quite cool. So responding to COVID, removing the academic requirements, that's really good. When I see that, I'm just really impressed because it means you are looking at how COVID has impacted these people that maybe we don't think about, or we should think about, but we don't. Ring fencing internships as well. So maybe putting aside 10, 20 internships for people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds to support them and make sure they're offered a chance. And then yeah, addressing the class pay gap as well. And reporting on that, being open about it is great. Love to see that. And then we have the next steps for you. So yeah, sign up as SMF mentor, could consider a lunch and learn session. If you would like that, you can just get in touch with me afterwards. Collect data. It's just, free, but super useful. You can publish it on your website, just something like that. And then enter the employer index. So I think that's it from me.
Thank you so much, Meg.
Questions now.
Yeah, we've had quite a lot of questions come in, and we've got about 10 minutes just over for me to fire some questions your way and to ask you a few things. Thank you so much, though. I found that really informative, and I think every year we do this, I learn something new. So some interesting things there. Just to let you know, everyone, just a reminder, the Q&A function is open, so please fire any questions there and they'll come over so that I can ask Megan. And like I said, we'll be doing about just over 10 minutes of questions, and then we'll have a short break before our 11 o'clock session starts. But Megan, to start with, we've had a great question come in. Somebody has asked or said, we often struggle to get employees to complete the questions that help us identify their socioeconomic background. Do you have any tips on how we can combat this? And I guess that's both people, giving advice to people for application forms and also when asking people once they've joined the business as well.
Yes. Just anecdotally, I heard that it's harder to get the responses once people are in the business. I think just emphasizing how useful it is for you, and rather than just sending out the survey and saying, can you complete this, emphasizing that it will help your organization, help you attract talent and attract people from backgrounds that are lower socioeconomic. Also just emphasizing that it's anonymous as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, sometimes we take for granted that things like that are anonymous and people don't recognize that. So just emphasizing that is really helpful. And when they apply as well, I would also emphasize that it's anonymous. And maybe, I know usually it's optional, but just having a little bit of a sentence as to why you're doing it, not just with just collecting the data, maybe just a tiny sentence, just fair recruitment, something like that. Also adding that helps when people are actually applying and might encourage them to apply or continue with their application.
Yeah, I think it can be really positive. I know when we look at application forms, whether we're helping clients who have got our own ones, we actually find that explaining those questions can be really positive because people go, well, they care about this. So that's really important. So brilliant.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of interest in the lunch and learn sessions. How do people sign up for that? They've quite a lot of people saying they'd love to kind of bring that conversation to their company.
Yeah, no, just get in touch with me and we can get those started for you. Just like a quick session around 30 minutes into what social mobility is, how to sign up as a mentor, things like that. But just get in touch with me, I'll pass on my email.
Thank you. And Megan, another question. Are there any costs involved in entering the index?
Yeah, so the index is around 1,200. And that covers your entry and feedback and any support that you might require throughout the entire process.
Thank you.
But if that isn't doable, there are some exceptions. So you can just get in touch with our index inbox. So for example, charities, small businesses, yeah, some exceptions to that.
Thank you. So you talked a little bit earlier about some of the easy questions to ask, not easy, but the simple questions to ask. And somebody has said, is it possible that you only had one of those measures? So you asked one question, and if so, what is the best question if you could only ask one, what it would be?
In terms of
Measuring people's social
measuring
mobility.
people's, I think it is worth asking them together just because it's super hard to only like address one. So, you know, taking into account first generation household income and free school meals together is really useful. Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the data that you're seeking. I think, yeah, I know that's not the answer that you want, but combining them just gets better results, really.
Yeah, yeah. But
Together.
isn't it basically the
Yeah.
finding that balance. So we've had a really interesting question from somebody who's asked about when people have joined the business, how is there a way, or have you got any advice or any guidance on how you see if their social mobility, if it's improved, if they've actually, as a result of the interventions or the things that they've put in place to support those who are perhaps from a disadvantaged background?
Yeah, I think maybe just doing like a quick survey, collecting data, maybe a few months into the induction or post-induction, something like that would be helpful, just to see if they're being supported and they feel supported. I mean, you can ask that of everyone as well, not just people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. There's like a comparison. Super nice, just an informal survey, just to see if they feel supported, maybe asking, are there any other areas that you might require support? Yeah, things like that, just having a look into that. And then that means you can continue to support those people.
Great. And would you recommend kind of surveying people who are in the business as well as people who are joining the business to give an
Yeah,
idea?
yeah, definitely everyone.
Ah, good. Okay, lovely. So we've got a question from somebody who says we have a lot of people from outside the UK applying to our roles. And obviously some of these questions might not be relevant. Have you got any advice or any guidance on how people navigate, especially with international students who are going to be making applications?
Yeah, so social mobility, global. It's not just limited to the UK, even though the UK isn't performing too well compared to the rest of the EU. There is some guidance which I can send over afterwards, based on global perspective.
Lovely. Thank you. That would be great. Lots of information coming your way, everyone. So really exciting. We're still getting lots of questions, so please do keep them coming. So Megan, do you have any advice about how universities can support social mobility and employment?
Yeah, so actually a lot of universities enter the index. So we do have some guidance for that, which is quite detailed, I believe. I will talk to our index team, but I can send that to you afterwards as well. But yeah, it's quite similar to the guidance that we offer to employers as well. But yeah, universities in terms of employment or
I think getting their
recruitment.
students ready for, especially, their perhaps widening participation cohorts or anything like that, or just their students. I know one of the things that we always recommend from our point of view is that, we work with some excellent widening participation cohorts at universities, and they're able to directly contact their students when they have opportunities that have come in from companies who are looking for a really diverse range of people applying. And so that's a really good place to start, is we've found identifying the students that might need that extra support. One of my colleagues, Millie, who a lot of you may know, I actually did a presentation at her university, University of Southampton, for her one participation cohort, and she was in the room when I did that presentation, and subsequently she applied to come and work for us and has been with us for many years. So I don't know if there's anything else that you can kind of think of that universities can do to kind of help students, so when they're making job applications, they're being supported.
Yeah, no, like you said, going out to those individual students is super useful, and like offering them additional support, maybe guidance that they might need. But yeah, I'll send over what we include in like the index for universities.
Nice. Megan, is there anything that businesses can do for free or very easily to help with social mobility?
Yeah, so collecting data, like just collecting that data from employees, reporting on your class pay gap as well is really useful. Like it might seem scary and it might feel like, oh, we don't want to report on this, but it really is this like major step, and we see organizations doing it now. And even though, yeah, it might look like, oh no, we do have this gap, it's still really useful, and it still encourages people to apply and see that they're recognizing this
Yeah.
gap. But yeah, data is free. You can just collect it, and it really helps, and it helps you to see what you might be missing and see what steps you can probably take to help with social mobility.
Great. So you talked a little bit earlier about when people are looking to sign up to the index, and obviously we mentioned charities and small businesses. Do you think the index is useful for charities and small businesses?
Yeah, no, definitely, because you might be at a different stage in your journey towards social mobility. But yeah, it helps any business because there's always going to be that data, no matter how small, or if it's a charity. So yeah, it's super useful, and the advice offered is still relevant. It's still relevant to a charity or a really small business. Yeah, charities and small employers with 49 employees or fewer are exempt from some of the costings as well. So yeah, that might be an incentive.
Really interesting. Sorry, we're getting lots of questions, Megan, so I'm firing loads your way. Somebody's asked, what are the benefits of joining the index as an organisation? And can we still take part in measuring social mobility even if we don't join the index?
Yeah, so you can take part just by collecting your own data, if you don't join the index. You could also partner with us, mentor with us, which yeah, could be useful, provide some volunteers, something like that. But yeah, the benefits. It's a lot of benefits, I guess. You get a pack, you get a feedback report that's just tailored to you. It's based on your entry and is really, really specific. How you perform, so you get qualitative and quantitative feedback too. And yeah, employers use this to kind of push their strategy for the next year. So some employers might enter one year, not the next, put what they've received into action. They might enter every year and kind of have this like journey towards social mobility. So yeah, you get quite a lot for entering, and we do see improvements in our employers that enter.
Amazing. Thank you, Megan. One more question, and then we're going to take a short break while everybody refreshes, gets a cup of tea. Megan, what advice would you give if somebody's struggling with an application to the index?
Um, yeah, so I would just, well, first of all, reach out to us because we can help. That's what we're here for. When it comes to the index. But yeah, I would just say kind of take a step back, speak to different people within the organization, and just speak to us. Like you shouldn't have to struggle with different parts. You also have a really long time to do it.
Mhm.
So taking it step by step, section by section, not having this whole thing and being like, oh my God, like I can't deal with like all of these questions. Like having it step by step really helps. And yeah, we can offer support and attend kind of our sessions where we will like help you with certain aspects of the index, or our insight sessions. And yeah, just reach out as well.
Thank you, Megan. That has been so interesting. I've learned, as I said, so much. Every time I do watch this, I find out more, and I think it's really interesting. So, Megan, we're going to share Megan's slides round. I'm sure Megan won't mind you reaching out to her directly if you've got any questions. Of course,
Yeah.
if you've got some for us to pass on questions, do let us know. As you can probably see, we've already got Sean joined us. Sean, hi Sean from Stagecoach. We'll be with you shortly, Sean. We're going to just take a couple of minute break just so that we can all make cups of tea and kind of get everything squared up for our next session at 11. Just a reminder, everyone, if you would like to use our hashtag to post about the conversations we're having today, we'd love to see them. Tag us, tag everybody that you see, connect with us. We'd love to see what you're talking about. The Q&A box will stay open. So if you've got more questions that crop up, either questions that you would like us to direct towards Megan and the SMF that we can pass on, really happy to do that. Or if you'd like to use it for our next session, which will start at 11, we'll do that. But Megan, thank you so much for your time this morning and for that excellent presentation. And we'll leave it there and we'll restart at 11. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We will be starting at 11, just while you all get settled with your cups of tea. As a reminder, all your questions could go into the Q&A box, but we'll get started again very shortly. Lovely. Hello, everyone. And we have got some more panelists who have joined us. Hopefully you can all see my screen again. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to reintroduce the session, just remind you why you're all here, and hopefully then jump in to introduce who we've got. So welcome back, everybody. So just a quick reminder then on Sanctuary Graduates for those who don't know us very well, or how we support over 100 businesses with all our aspects of their early careers and diversity initiatives. We attract diverse apprentices, interns, placement students and graduates. We're very much experts in diversity. You've heard about it a lot today already, but diversity is very much in our DNA, not just the people that work in the business, but also the relationships that we have with universities that are born out of support for their widening participation cohorts. And as I mentioned earlier, well over half the companies that come to us for support have a diversity objective very much in mind. So just a very quick reminder of our products and how we support employers. Firstly, the full attraction partner. That's when employers want one attraction partner to take care of all their attraction strategy, sharing responsibility for making sure that they get the diverse applications that they need. And the three products that the firms who do their own recruitments use for that are often email marketing, dedicated events, and student ambassadors, using the networks that I discussed earlier, and I'll just refresh your memory on. And so our networks, these are all networks we've built at universities, which underpins all our services. We have a big database of talent that we can segment by all diversity characteristics. And we have relationships with 58 mostly non-Russell Group universities where we can send an email to any of their students. We also have relationships with academic departments across all disciplines in mostly Russell Group universities. And finally, student societies. As I mentioned earlier, we support lots of diverse societies, especially those like the 93% Club, Afro-Caribbean societies, and Women in societies. So we have used these networks to support the employers on our panel in lots of different ways over the years. So here they are. We have Holly from Schroders, we have Flo from Amazon, and we have Sean from Stagecoach. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Just a reminder, everybody, post all your questions in the Q&A and use that hashtag if you would like to, continue the discussion online and tag us so that we can can see it. But we have got everybody here, which is fantastic. So how this session is going to take place, what we're going to start by doing, we'll go round probably in alphabetical order in terms of names. So Flo, Holly, Sean, just to make it nice and easy. They're going to introduce themselves very quickly, and then I'm going to be asking them some questions about what they're doing in their businesses, and we'll probably go in that same order. So we'll go Flo, Holly, Sean, just to make it really simple for everybody so that we remember. Any questions that you've got throughout, please fire our way. We will probably once again ask those questions towards the end of this session rather than kind of interrupting the flow as we go through. But we'll do quick introductions from everybody and then we'll jump into some questions. So Flo, if you would like to start.
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, all good. Perfect. Cool. So yes, hi everyone. It's a real privilege to be here and thank you. So I'm Flo Wilkinson. I work in security as a fraud and abuse program manager in Amazon UK fresh stores and online. And I'm also Amazon UK's social mobility affinity group board member, managing external partnerships. I've been with Amazon for just over 2.5 years, and I started my Amazon journey as an intern. So I completed a security and loss prevention internship at Amazon and then applied for a full-time role afterwards. Prior to this, I completed my undergrad at King's College and then a master's in human rights at UCL, and worked a couple of work placements at NGOs. I very much sort of, I guess from a personal point of view, would be classed as a free school meal kid. I went to a very below average state school and was brought up by a single parent who worked 3 jobs to care for me and my 2 sisters. So this is probably one of the key things why I'm really, really passionate about social mobility and helping sort of other people really explore the diverse options out there for them.
Thanks, Flo. Holly?
Awesome. Yeah. Hi, everyone. So my name is Holly. I am the Global Early Careers Manager here at Schroders. So reasonably new joiner. I joined in July. Previous lives and worlds have always been kind of within the early career space. I've worked across kind of management consultancy, technology, and a few other areas as well. So have been really impressed since I've joined here by the real drive for social mobility and general diversity kind of drives that Schroders have really been putting on. Similar to Flo, I also would consider myself kind of coming from this background of also had a single parent, was also kind of attending at a state school. So it's really kind of inspiring to be somewhere that really drives this. So we've been partnered with the SMF for about, I think, 6 years and Sanctuary for ages and ages. So it's been great to kind of grow with both these companies and continue on with our diversity initiatives. And yeah, just really excited to be here today and to answer your questions.
Thank you, Holly. Last but not least, Sean.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, my name is Sean Algar and I am Head of Talent for Stagecoach. I guess I'm delighted to be here as well to join the panel. My background is really one of people and change for the last 20 or so years. The reason I'm at Stagecoach is to help drive change in a very rapidly changing sector, in a sector that hasn't seen rapid changes for many years. And I guess my overall role is, one, to make sure we have the right attraction strategy to bring the right people into the business to take us into the 21st century and fit for purpose. Secondly, to make sure that we create the opportunities and development within the business so that people can be at their best. And third, so that the culture and the inclusion that we seek as a business is there and in place, and that we're constantly looking to see how we develop that in what is a time of change within the transport sector. In terms of the relationship with Sanctuary, we've worked very closely with them in the last year to ensure that we drive the younger joiners and our pipeline of younger people into the business, specifically graduates and soon to be apprentices, is as good and optimized as it can be. So delighted to be here. Thank you for the welcome.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, everybody. Lovely. So we're going to dive into some questions. And Flo, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay. Why is, Flo, social mobility important as part of your early careers strategy at Amazon?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, social mobility awareness, I think, in early careers is absolutely pivotal in ensuring that Amazon continue to be the Earth's best employer, and ensuring that we build a much fairer society for all. So, our student programs team here at Amazon, we work directly with people in their early career stages, and we organise social mobility programs and events for these students, which would entail upskilling events and follow-up mentoring programs as well, just to give students a greater visibility of all the different kind of corporate opportunities out there at Amazon. There are many, and we need a very diverse pool of applicants to apply for them. We need that creative thinking, we need that diverse thought. And it's also, these programs are very much an empowering session to really encourage applicants to apply for intern roles or apprenticeships in the UK. Also, these events sort of cover, CV writing skills, interview skills, preparation for online assessments, everything to make you sort of be best prepared to join Amazon.
Thank you. Can you tell me, Flo, a little bit more about what you've put in place to increase social mobility at Amazon, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Amazon was actually named last year as one of the top 75 UK employers in Social Mobility Employer Index, which is basically a benchmarking tool that shows performance of different companies and 8 different areas of employer-led social mobility events. So Amazon have worked notoriously with a lot of young people from diverse backgrounds and communities, and have really engaged with staff and suppliers and social mobility efforts, which I guess has really carved a pathway to ensure that barriers to progression are removed for employers from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. In the operations division, so what we've done is over half of our new hires are straight from education or have previously been unemployed. And the apprenticeship program, which we've introduced, now has more than over 5,000 apprentice roles across 50 different schemes. So that's really just so much diversity in there, and so many skills which are required. And it's making it sort of one of the largest apprenticeship programs in the UK today. And what's really great is that 85% of these apprentices which finish their course with Amazon continue their careers at Amazon, and 79% of those are actually still in the business today. So it just shows that Amazon really are trying to sort of support people to apply, because we need that diverse thought. We need people from, whether maybe socially diverse backgrounds, and that we continue to support them in their careers at Amazon or wherever they kind of want to end up as well. So yeah, I think those are sort of some of the key areas.
Yeah, Flo, you were telling me the other day a bit about the apprenticeship and how exciting it was. And in fact, I was sharing a bit of that with Holly the other day, and she was very interested. So it's great, these conversations and allowing us to have those roundtable discussions. It just goes to show, what we learn from one another.
Yeah.
So could you tell me a little bit more about how you continue to support your diverse talent once they've joined Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. So Amazon UK, we partner with a lot of external organizations, really focusing on, one, attracting, but also attaining that talent once you get into Amazon from socially diverse backgrounds. Now, this is through whether it's job postings, events, training resources, and also Amazon UK, we've newly launched our Social Mobility Affinity Group, which I'm the board member of, and we really aim to focus on supporting employees from who've normally done social mobility, like upward journeys, and once they enter Amazon, to really support them to continue to bring their whole authentic self to work. For example, one of the key things which I found difficult when joining a very corporate role from a background which I'm not used to, or my parents haven't come from either, was actually just financial and wealth management, and actually just knowing, you know, what to do with my salary, what's the best way to support me financially. So that's one of the key areas which we're focusing on at the moment, to just really continue that support, to help sort of everyone feel like they're on the same playing field when they come to work, which they should be. So yeah, I think that's a key area which we're focusing on at the moment.
Yeah, it's that all-encompassing thing, isn't it? It's really good to have these strategies in place to bring people into your business that are from lots of different backgrounds. But actually, once they're there, how do you make sure that they're making the right decisions for them? How do you give them that insight that they might not be getting from home? And how do they, you know, when Megan was talking earlier about the difference in salaries once people join a business, and how do they push themselves forward to ask for more money? All these kind of things. It's very much education by the time that they reach you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think you've nailed it as well. It's like bringing in this new way of, I guess, like thinking and speaking to really just propel and like drive people forward, so that, you know, we can bring out the best in people, and, you know, people can succeed and feel really proud of what they've achieved as well.
Thank you, Flo. If anybody's got any more questions for Flo, please post them in the Q&A. We are going to move on to Holly next. And Holly, Megan's already talked this morning a bit. If you were here, you may not have caught it, but you were in the presentation about all the cool work that Schroders are doing. So I know that there's been some questions. If you have got questions for Holly, do post them in the chat. But Holly, you've told me already, and I'd love to hear more about the great program that you have in place with the Social Mobility Foundation. If you could just tell me a bit more, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned, I think we've been partnered with the Social Mobility Foundation for about 6 years now. Been really pushing various few initiatives throughout this time, but been committed to improving every single year. Something that we're really proud of is that we jumped to, I think it's 22nd on the Social Mobility Index this year, which we're super proud of, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we continue to jump, but obviously continuing to improve, and we want to continue that commitment. So there's quite a few different initiatives that we do run. A couple that I really want to focus on. First of all, our 1+1 work experience program. So this was introduced because we appreciate that not every candidate will have the same opportunities when it comes to networks of people where they can get that early experience to then kind of get their foot in the door. So we really just wanted to kind of level the playing field here and make sure that we were providing opportunities for everyone. So the most recent intake, the SMF provided us with, I think it was 15 students that came and joined us for 2 weeks. During these 2 weeks, it wasn't just a shadowing experience. We wanted to make sure that these candidates actually felt like they could contribute and get some real learning experience from it. So we're able to kind of get onto the systems and really kind of contribute to the teams within that time. So for 2 weeks as well, it kind of meant that they could really get involved, and it wasn't just a couple of days. So it was something that we really enjoyed doing, and also the candidates really enjoyed and got amazing feedback from majority, and majority of them did really well. So anyone that did get good feedback was then recommended on to our fast track days, which is something that I will talk about next. So our fast track days we partnered with Social Mobility Foundation, Amos Bursary, and Into University. And these days are targeted specifically at underrepresented groups. So this year we ran a Black Heritage Day, and we also ran a Social Mobility Day. And the reason we implemented these is because I appreciate we have quite a robust process, as I'm sure a lot of early careers programs do. It's a CV upload, it's online tests, it's video interviews, etc. And we wanted to make sure that, I guess, number one, these can seem daunting for people if you haven't been used to them. But then also number two, if you are someone that is at university and is working a job and has lots of other kind of commitments, etc. going on, there's not always the time to be made for these. So that's kind of why we introduced them. And the point of the fast track day is that the candidates will pick 2 business areas that they're interested in. They will have like a speed interview, along with kind of some CV writing tips, etc. And then if they do well there, they will be fast tracked to one of our interview days, so kind of skip the rest of the process. These 2 initiatives this year, obviously, I think we've definitely run them previously, but from what I've seen this year, have been fantastic. We've made a really good amount of hires onto our internship program specifically from this, and so it's something that we'll definitely keep on doing, and looking to grow as well.
Amazing. You talked a little bit there about the application process, Holly. Could you tell me a little bit more about the steps or the interventions that you have throughout the application and onboarding process to really support diverse candidates?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So something that was really big that we did kind of last year was remove the 2-1 requirement. So that's for the grads and interns. And then for our school leavers, we removed all of our UCAS point requirements. So it's now you just need to have attained either an A-level or equivalent, but there's no kind of minimum points. So we actually did this because we haven't really found any evidence to show that academic achievement necessarily equals achievement within the workplace. So we wanted to make sure that if we're finding this, we want to make sure that actually our application process mirrors that. So we've kind of removed barriers for people to apply at the beginning. During the process, we also operate on a CV blind approach. So it's all based on the merit that the candidate shows within the process. So if they pass kind of eligibility criteria, they will be sent the online test. If they pass the test, they will be sent the video interview. And then we use video interviews only to shortlist can be assessment day. So the assessors do not see the CVs until the assessment day, and this we found has removed bias in terms of, oh, they went to this person went to this university, they got these grades, etc., etc. Because as we said before, that's not always the best indicator for the role. So in terms of attraction, I know I've kind of mentioned the online events there previously, but we will also run kind of insight days, and these are specifically targeted at people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds or people that maybe you just wouldn't have had the opportunity to hear about us, just to come along, learn a little bit about who we are and what we do. So we recently partnered with Uptree to run a school leaver event for our apprenticeship programs. And a stat that I really liked from this actually was, I think 48% of candidates at the beginning said they consider applying to us, and that jumped to 95% by the end of the day. So we were really happy with that stat, and something we're going to carry on doing there as well. During the process, we've also recently launched a webinar series. This kind of goes back to my point earlier, where we appreciate that the application process can seem daunting, right? So the webinar series is just to talk through in a very kind of candid way with a couple of people that have been through the process about what to expect at each point, and just for candidates to be able to ask questions, to just kind of hopefully myth bust a little bit and make them feel as comfortable as they can. So that's something we've launched this year and has actually worked really nicely. And then a final thing that we are doing is that we've launched this year is, once candidates have received an offer, they are partnered with a buddy immediately, so that they don't have to have accepted at this point. This is actually helping them in their decision process. So we purposely try to match people where possible with certain people within the business who are from a similar background, who might have gone to similar universities, similar schools, had a similar experience, just so that they can kind of start to build that network and start to feel like they can feel a bit more comfortable. The aim is just to increase transparency here and make sure that candidates feel comfortable and are able to actually ask real questions when they're deciding to join us. So yeah, that's a few different things. Appreciate I've kind of touched on hopefully all the points in the process there, but something we're going to continue growing as well.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Holly. And so they've gone through this. They've been onboarded. They're with you. And a similar question to what I asked Flo earlier. What are the different networks in the business that support candidates or your hires once they've joined Schroders?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, following on from the buddy allocation offer, once they are, I think it's a few weeks before they join us, candidates will be given another buddy. This is more to kind of guide them through the onboarding process, and again, just to broaden their network a bit. So this is super helpful, obviously, for people that don't have a network here, to start to feel like, okay, I know a couple of people here, I've got a few people that I can ask questions, and hopefully just sort of make them feel a little bit more comfortable to join. So as I said, I joined in July, and even myself, I've had a fair few years of experience at work, but I found it kind of intimidating walking into this building. It's quite a big kind of, I'm sure you can imagine, big old financial institution can seem a bit intimidating. So we're just trying to kind of get rid of those barriers, especially for all of these candidates where it's probably their first jobs. We also have multiple employee resource groups, so it's a bit of a mouthful to say that, or ERGs, which are great for finding obviously similar groups of people. One thing that we do run is an early careers group. So this isn't just for people that are on our programs, it's also for any candidates, or sorry, employees that are a part of Schroders who are early on in their career. So that's a great way to start networking for all of them. But something that I'm personally extremely excited about is our socio-economic diversity ERG, which launched last year. So the purpose here, and I've written, sorry if I'm glancing down, I've written this down to make sure I do get the right. But the purpose is to support the cultivation of diversity and inclusivity of employees from all socioeconomic backgrounds, and also to increase the awareness and understanding of what socioeconomic diversity means and its benefit to Schroders. So these two pillars are actually super important. First of all, to kind of introduce anyone that is from a lower socioeconomic diversity background. It's a really good opportunity for them to meet like-minded people, to have kind of networking with more senior people in the business and be able to find more people that they can connect with if they need anything, but also I guess to continue to grow awareness throughout the organisation. Whilst we've come leaps and bounds, we're by no way near at the end of our journey. I would imagine most companies are probably the same at the moment. So it's just about really kind of creating a space of belonging.
Thank you, Holly. We've got questions coming in for you. We've got questions coming in for Flo, so we'll come and tackle those towards the end, so that you can have a think about what might be coming in. And Sean, I'm going to move on to you, because obviously we've spoken to Flo and Holly, who are quite far in this journey, or certainly have quite established things. But I think it's fair to say, when we've been talking in the past, and obviously we've been working with you, it's quite a new thing for Stagecoach. It's not really well developed, and I'd love to know, Sean, some of the challenges for you as a bus operator to increase diversity in Stagecoach, and why that was important.
Yeah, thanks, Elle. Yeah, I guess from stage, so probably if I just slight backwards history piece, my last job 6 years or so was working with Sky, and when I joined Sky, it was very much to drive change. They were about to go into a new era of Sky Glass, which meant you no longer had to have someone climbing up a ladder and going onto the side of your wall to site a dish to connect you to 300, 400 odd TV programs, and that changed the need for the people that we needed within the business for a start. So when I joined, and please don't accept this all down to myself, but a team of us looked at the fact that 52% of our customers were female, and decision makers in the home when we got there, and yet only 1% of our workforce of installers were female, which seemed absolutely crazy, because you spend more time in the house with those people than you do outside the house explaining how it works, but the perks and the benefits of having it and how to use it. So we recognized that moving into a new era, we had to start thinking forward. We had to start thinking about why do we need our people to be typically strong, robust, lifting ladders, jumping on and off vans all day, when actually the future isn't going to be that at all. So the challenge was, how do we change our attraction policy? How do we make it a great place to work that people will identify with, want to join, and then encourage that change? And I'm really proud that when I left, we were up to about 16% within 6 years. And that was a team of us focused. So I think probably when I spoke to Stagecoach, when they were looking for someone to come in and help them, that was probably the reason why I was, invited to join them. And then from that moment on, if you think about it, post-Brexit, which was a source of a huge amount of workers, frontline engineers and drivers that we could source, that disappeared. Post-COVID and certainly hybrid, I think what happened was that given we were an aging workforce, and given it was a staid industry, I don't think I'll be criticised by my employers for saying that. It was a job for life. People joined and they decided they were a driver, and that appealed to them, and they would drive for a long time. And I think that time at home and the changes that we saw as a result of COVID, and then the opportunity to have a bit more quality time. People made a choice. You know, people in their thousands said, I'm not sure I ever want to go back to doing that again. You know, every 5 from 7 days, I'm out on shift. I get up very early in the morning. I come home potentially very late in the morning as well. I'm not sure it's what I want anymore, because I've seen, you know, I've got less years to work than I've probably worked. And so the attraction and the kind of, we do it because that's all we know, people started changing and challenging that, and rightly so. I think as a company, we then recognized we had a challenge in recruiting as we'd always recruited before. So we needed to change. And that then said, well, hang on a minute, what you know, people who look like me aren't reflective of the people who sit on our buses every day. They're not reflective of the community that we serve. They're not reflective of what we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years, you know, where we've been keeping people able to get to work and to connect people. So this is probably the perfect chance to change things, because if we don't do it now, we will get caught behind. And if you think about where the sector is going, you know, it's only in the last couple of years since I've joined, I've realized, but the world has changed significantly. We are now in a time of what's right for the environment, what's right for our community, emissions, you know, the whole about doing the right thing as a business. For us, diversity is absolutely about doing the right thing and making sure that the people we have within the business are the right people to take us forward, to allow us to become a forward-thinking, dynamic company that does the right thing for our communities, but also that's a great place to work. And people are proud to tell people, I work for Stagecoach. I love it. It's great. We've got really forward-thinking strategy now. You know, what was seen as a blue-collar, male-dominated sector, it absolutely doesn't need to be anymore. So I guess that's where we're at now. We've recognized it, and we're working furiously to quickly change the perception of other people.
Thank you, Sean. And yeah, I mean, obviously that kind of changing the complexion of Stagecoach is so important, as you've said. Could you tell us a little bit about the strategies that you've implemented to increase the diversity of people coming into Stagecoach?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's safe to say there's been a huge overhaul of Stagecoach. It's probably unrecognizable in terms of structure. So I've been here 16 or 17 months. Shortly before that, there had been a focus with a consultancy looking about how we became fit for purpose moving forward in the future. That involved, I'm sorry, that necessitated a restructure. So from the very top, we've got a reorganization of the business. We are 18 devolved businesses, if you like, across the company, across the country. We now have a new CEO who came from media, so quick change and used to dynamic transactions and quick change. We have a COO from within Bus, so we've still got that continuity and understanding of what's needed to make us tick and survive. We've then changed how the companies work into a central resource. So instead of having 18 different companies doing 18 different things in terms of attraction and adverts and recruitment, we're centralizing that. So we've done a huge overhaul of our EVP, why we're a great company to work for. So the type of adverts that you'll see certainly reflect the type of people we want to attract to the business, which in the past, I have to say, most of the adverts probably look like someone like me, certainly someone between 40 and 60 with grey hair, because that's typically what people would expect to see driving a bus or in an engineering bay. And it really isn't the case. So apart from anything else, we know McKinsey reports are powerfully show data that supports that the best and most successful companies are those with the best diversity. So given a time of change, given all the things, the history lessons you have from me about, you know, Brexit and COVID and hybrid, the danger was if we didn't change strategy, we were in danger of you know, not only failing to grow, but disappearing. And one of the things I've done when I came into the business and when I talked to the MDs in group discussions is, I love this phrase. It's Henry T. Ford. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And the point that we're trying to make is Stagecoach has got a heritage and was incredibly successful in terms of leading bus companies across the UK. But what was right in 1980 will no longer be right in 2020. And the point being is, just because we recruited in a certain way and we positioned ourselves in a certain way, you need to move with the times. You need to diversify as a business. We need to add to the offerings that we have, because people see great and decide to copy it. And we couldn't afford to stand still because we get caught up. I always use the Nokia scenario. I worked in the mobile phone sector between 1997 and 2007. Nokia at one stage had 44% of the global market. 44% of the global market. They didn't diversify. They didn't buy into tablets, and they didn't buy into smartphones. They kind of said, our strategy is we make our phones smaller and leaner and with more games on them, because that's what our customers want. That was a really costly mistake, and by the time they realized that, it was too late, because the media and telecoms moved so quickly. They now don't have 1%. And if you think about it now, I think Samsung and Apple fight for 26-27% of the market, but they had 44% for the best part of 10 years. So we recognized, and the point I was making is, just because we were the best, if we want to stay the best, we need to do something about it and change drastically.
Thank you, Sean. It's so interesting, and I think you're so right. And you can probably see the importance of change, but how has that push for change been received at Stagecoach? You know, and what impact has increasing diversity had in your business?
Well, look, we are now aiming for 25% gender split within the business, which we were a lot lower than that a couple of years ago, and we're up to about 22.5%, purely from the fact that we've offered flexibility for our employees joining the company. So you're not now down to a strictly X amount of shifts on a 5 from 7 basis. If you want to work with us between the hours of 9:30 when the kids are at school and you need to be finished by 3:30, there's still an awful lot of buses and services that could be operated by people who need flexible hours. In terms of attracting people, I talked about, we've had our website is just going through a second change, but even now, from where it was, it's far more reflective. It offers people the chance to see what's it like to be a female at work, what's it like to be a person of color, what's it like to be someone between the ages of 20 and 16 and 24 in Stagecoach, which you wouldn't have seen before. And we talk about a day in the life, and we talk about them sharing about why it's been good for them, what it's done for them that they didn't possibly expect to see when they joined. We've worked with yourselves to turn the graduate program around this year, and delighted. We had I think we took on 9. First time we've done it for 5 years. 5 females, 4 gentlemen, 66% diversity. Those people are thriving. We've just had them doing Cheltenham Festival last week. They were out driving buses. They've all passed their licenses. They were taking collection of fares. They were managing queues. They've proved themselves with the staid people who think they won't be able to do that. It's not the sort of job they'll relish, but they've taken to it like a duck to water. And I think it's removing the unconscious bias. It's showing people that, give people a chance. They don't need to turn up for interviews in a 3-piece suit and a buttonhole anymore. They can still be just as capable if they haven't attended certain grammar schools. And then from a lower socio-demographic, there are jobs that suit everybody. You don't need to be from a certain background to enjoy a type of role. So again, removing those barriers and stopping it feel like it has to be that sort of person to fit that sort of role. We've got multicultural. We've got 7 networks now we've introduced. So we've got allies within work, so that everybody who joins, we make them feel as comfortable. I mean, our goal is, it's not even a color or a race or a creed. We want everybody to feel that they can be their true self at work. And the way to do that is to make sure that you almost cater for everybody, and that everybody feels that they got somewhere they can go or talk to make sure that happens.
Thank you, Sean. So much interesting stuff there. And we've got lots of questions coming in, and please do fire away with your questions. We're moderating them all, and we'll try and get as many asked as possible. And Sean, an anecdote from me, I can remember when my now husband was applying to graduate jobs many moons ago, and he was panicking about what shoes he had to wear, because does he wear brown shoes or did he wear black shoes or whatever, and I said, well, don't worry about it. I mean, my now husband, who was boyfriend at the time, is from Northern Ireland, lived in a terraced house. He's not from a background where he ever knew what kind of shoes. And I said, ultimately, Aaron, if you go in and do your best, then if the business doesn't recognize that, that's on the business, that's not on you.
Absolutely.
Okay, right. So I'm going to fire into some questions, and I'm going to try and share these out. We have had quite a lot come in, so we will kind of jump in with ones. So Holly, I'm going to start with you. Could you tell us a little bit more about the video interviews, and also who screens people for your assessment days, and how do you ensure that there's no bias at play?
Yeah, for sure. So our video interviews are comprised of 5 questions. One is a bit more motivational, and the rest of them are all competency based. They are actually the same for any scheme that they apply to. So we try and make it kind of, we're looking mainly for potential here rather than kind of lots of experience or lots of kind of skills that they would be able to learn on the job anyway. So that's kind of the reason why we did that. All of the questions, candidates are allowed to do a redo. I think it's a couple of redos per question, which makes it a little bit, hopefully a bit less intimidating. The annoying thing about video interviews is, unfortunately, sometimes they're a bit of a necessary evil. No one likes doing them. They always feel a bit awkward when doing that, but we're trying to make it the most kind of comfortable that we can for candidates when we're doing that. Who screens them? Myself and my team. So we will sit and kind of watch all of the video interviews and kind of choose the people that we would like to put forward, and then we will give our assessors a short list of videos for them to go and watch, and they will kind of have the final say. In terms of how we remove bias, I think, as I mentioned before, because we don't provide CVs, we don't kind of include any sort of background, it's purely just based on these competency questions. That does remove a level of bias. I'm not saying it removes it all, because obviously you're still hearing an accent, you're still kind of hearing about certain experiences, etc. But one thing that we are introducing, or have introduced, sorry, this year, is kind of training for these interviewers. So things specifically looking at, okay, just what unconscious biases are, how it's okay if we have them. I think as long as we can pick them out, it's okay. I think sometimes people will get a bit caught out or feel a bit offended if you kind of try and question them, and I think we're going through a bit of a re-education piece here by saying that we all have them, it's okay to have them, it's just about knowing what that is, and then we can kind of fight against that. So we're definitely on a journey with that. It is going well so far, but yeah, I think we try, the way that we design the process is to really remove as much bias as we can. Also, I guess I was actually, it's slightly pivoting the point a bit, but I was at an interesting talk about kind of candidates using AI within their application process. And I think because we've removed a lot of the written elements, it also removes the kind of the bias towards it. So say if there was a candidate that was able to pay for an AI versus a candidate that wasn't able to pay for an AI, that AI is obviously always going to perform better. Again, not perfect. I appreciate candidates can probably type in the questions that we ask them, and I think it's something that we're going to have to continue to see. But we're trying to remove all of the like kind of the written questions, etc., as well, just to kind of level that playing field as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, at least on the video interview, it will be them talking.
The AI conversation is perhaps a can of worms we'll do today, because what we do know is that you know, if it gives tools to people who don't have those tools at home to be able to feel confident in their answers, then fantastic. But then equally, we don't want everybody, as I'm sure many of you have seen so far in the last recruitment cycle or last couple of recruitment cycles, the same answer copied and pasted. Flo, I'm going to come to you with a question, if that's okay. You know, obviously, we've had a question from a university, and I'm going to read it, and hopefully this will make sense. Forgive me if I read it badly. So organisations have to invest more time and resource in engaging universities with high numbers of students from a lower socioeconomic backgrounds. How can university career staff make this easier for employers? So how do you have any kind of things that work well when you've been interacting with universities or schools as well that makes it easier for you to kind of reach these students?
Yeah, I think it's also, well, one, it's ensuring that we're providing events to nationwide, right? I think that's one thing which is really important. So we do a lot of events up in Manchester too, to really ensure that our reach, we're getting to these students who have got an amazing talent, but just need that kind of person to encourage them that this is, you know, Amazon's a place for you to work. You're welcome here. Please do apply and have the confidence to apply. So I think reach is definitely one. I think when we're kind of speaking to young people as well, from an Amazon perspective, it's really just widening their, I think maybe expanding their knowledge on exactly the amount of different careers at Amazon which they would thrive in. So, you know, from logistics all the way down to data analysis, to content producing, to merchandising, to anything. You know, Amazon is so varied and wide that there's a place for everyone here. And a lot of people don't know the, you know, the different roles that actually Amazon have. So explaining these roles and explaining, you know, the opportunities out there at Amazon to the younger generation is almost is super exciting, and it makes them feel like, hey, this is something that I would do amazing in. So I think that's also a big thing, is that education piece. I think maybe it's demystifying the corporate kind of element to Amazon, but also, you know, demystifying corporate, but also demystifying operations, because operations is key to Amazon. And also being part of an operations or being part of the field teams is an incredible opportunity where you're able to really enhance your people management skills, you know, working in ambiguity, data analysis, everything like that. So I think it's definitely just making sure we're reaching the right students across like the nation, and also ensuring that we are educating them on the endless possibilities at Amazon, which they can explore.
Thank you, Flo. So I'm going to come to all of you with the same question, because we've had lots of people asking this question this morning. And that's been about how, obviously, we're doing loads of work to support those students who might need it because they haven't had it at home. But how or how have you dealt with, or how do you deal with any pushback that you might get from the groups who don't necessarily need that support, or to take that a bit wider, you know, not only the kind of candidates who aren't from the backgrounds that we're talking about today, from those that the disadvantaged backgrounds, but also perhaps hiring managers who are questioning, well, why are we helping one group and not the other? So a bit of a kind of an open question there. And maybe Sean, I don't know if you've got any thoughts about kind of that buy-in piece.
Yeah, look, I think we've had a real challenge. Again, going back to the fact we've got 18 different companies, all with their own MDs and their own boards, who are under an umbrella, but almost, you know, to some extent, they were able to, as long as you're turning a profit, you know, continue being part of the business. Now things have changed, and we want that centralization and standardization. So we've got an inclusion and culture partner, a department now, and we've gone out with awareness campaigns, and largely we use data that we can get and analogies where we actually make it relevant and show people why they need to change. So, you know, it's really strange. I've talked to MDs before, and I've said, your driver deficit is significantly worse than it was last year. It's getting worse. We're not seeing a difference because you do your own thing that you believe in. Why would you do that? He went, well, it always used to work. And he went, but it's not cyclical now. There's no reason to suggest that what worked in 2000 is now going to work in 2020. We're seeing it's not. We're seeing we need to change. And then it's almost, I know it sounds awful, but the proof is the hole in the hands. You show them best practice and where it's worked, give them analogies, give them data that proves it, and show who else has done it and what they've done to make that difference. And almost ask for that trust and say, let me help you. Let's monitor it. If it doesn't work, you'll be right to say, I want to stay with what I'm doing and persevere. But 9 times out of 10, if you're doing the right thing, you'll make a positive difference, especially if you're changing and modernizing processes that we hadn't been till recently.
Thank you, Sean. Holly, perhaps next. I don't know if you've had to deal with this at Schroders.
Yeah, and I think so. I kind of wanted to mirror Sean's point there, that I think the only way to kind of start persuading people is to go to them with data and kind of examples as well. This is where, going back to the work experience program that we ran, this was something that actually was a great change for us this year. One of the candidates who we have actually offered onto our summer internship just performed so well that one of the leaders of our investment division was like, we absolutely need this person, and do everything that we need to help her along. So I think this is about that re-education piece, and it's not going to happen overnight, unfortunately, especially if you look at these leaders. They have been a lot of the time in the industry for many years and are used to doing things a certain way, and until they kind of see these people and see these changes, it's not massively be able to be of their radar. So yeah, it's something that we are going along with at the moment. If I'm honest, Schroders in the past few years has come leaps and bounds with this. I think that is just one example, but that's been happening over and over. And again, Sean, on the McKinsey research piece, I think that point of having diverse teams and showing how much more important it is to create actually more kind of synergies within the workplace is super important. Another interesting conversation I was actually having with one of our leaders recently is that actually, if you look at our client group, like, that's changing as well. So the people that we are serving, again, to Sean's point, we need to be mirroring those. We need to be being able, if we have more diverse clients, which we absolutely do, just having the same old people going in to serve them isn't always going to support that, and isn't always going to show us in the best light either. So that's another way that we've kind of tackled that problem recently, is to kind of come at from that lens. But yeah, I think in general the buy-in is becoming pretty strong from our leaders. But as always, as I said, we will always continue to work on this.
And Flo, just to round us off on that question, same question to you: the buy-in either from the leaders in the business or from people in the other groups that we've not been talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really great question, and one that comes up a lot. I think at Amazon, the way that we view social mobility is like an all-encompassing. Everyone is in this together. You don't have to be from a socially, a low socioeconomic background in order to, connect with these issues at all. Social mobility is intersectional, and we very, very much encourage and drive that through Amazon. So I think one of the reasons how we sort of get buy-in from just employees at Amazon, it's like, this is something that concerns all of us. This is something that we can all play a part in. And this is something that we all need education in, because a lot of people actually don't know what social mobility means. And so really just driving that dialogue, driving that conversation, and making it as popular as a gender or race is really, really important to cementing these attitudes. And that's something that Amazon really drives to do. So I think that's almost like changing the culture and changing the way that people think about it is pivotal. I think also to get buy-in from leaders, and also, generally people who work at Amazon too. We're an incredibly customer-centric and obsessed company. We do everything, whatever we do is for the customer, and our customers are diverse people, and we know this. So if we make our team, if we make our work environment diverse from a range of different backgrounds, financial backgrounds, that will attract the customers. And so there's a direct correlation between if you have sort of people from different backgrounds working for you and bringing their authentic self to work, are happy, are in a place where they're thriving, that is the output of it, is that you're going to have customers who are attracted to your products, what your services, what you're providing. So it's almost like that's the buy-in from leaders, and obviously backed with data and obviously backed with everything else. But, you know, especially at Amazon, the customer is centric to what we're doing. So it seems almost invaluable to not have a workforce which is diverse too.
Thank you, Flo. I've just seen a question pop in, which I thought might be a great one to field towards you, if you don't mind, because it's about parents and apprenticeships and getting the buy-in from parents. So the question that's been asked is, sometimes parents can pose a barrier, especially to those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, applying to various roles. And that could be because of their perception of the business or their perception of the industry. Do you have any experience of that? And do you have anything that you do not only to encourage students to apply, but also to help, you know, with kind of buying in the parents, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question. I'm so happy it was raised. I really do, because, you know, we talk a lot about sort of like young people straight from school entering the workforce, but actually what happens if you want to have a complete career change? Like, we live in a society now where that is the norm, and therefore we should be working towards that. So Amazon have a great affinity group. When I say affinity group, it's almost like a community within Amazon called Families at Amazon, sorry. And they provide resources, support to families, parents, entering Amazon, staying at Amazon, continuing at Amazon, and have all different types of resources. So there's almost like a community out there specifically for families and parents. I think as well, what's great about our apprenticeships is that, you know, you don't have to be straight from school, like 18-year-old, to apply for them at all. You can apply for them, I think, at whatever age. I think it's depending on the course, but definitely one to check out. And actually having that experience, you know, let's say, you know, you're a parent having that experience, what's to say that you're not working on a product which is all to do with babies or household or anything family product related? Like, we need your input at being a direct parent to serve our customers better. So I think as well, there's no sort of, you know, discrimination or barrier there to accepting parents onto a scheme like this.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, if you can get the parents and their children applying as well for your apprenticeships, how wonderful would that be? God, wouldn't that kind of
brilliant. Have the full like Amazon generations.
I know when we've been doing work with schools and particularly targeting the young people, the school leavers, when it comes to apprentices as well, and going to the schools and getting the buy-in from the schools, but also getting a buy-in from the apprentices. Funnily enough, I actually have an anecdote myself. I actually joined KPMG, my first real job. I worked in a golf club before that, but it was as a waitress, so it doesn't count. But my first real job was as a school leaver, and I joined the KPMG school leaver program in 2011. Now, I had an excellent time. I was on and off at Exeter University and in London at the office, and decided after a few years that I didn't want to be an accountant, and so took a different career path. But my dad actually heard about that opportunity, and he heard about it being talked on I think it was the Today program on Radio 4. So he just had it on in the background. He was getting ready to go to work, had it on. My dad's a plumber, so it was pretty early start. And he said, well, why don't you apply for it? And so my dad really had never heard about KPMG. I think for the majority of my time while I was there, he actually thought I worked for MI6 because he didn't really understand what I was doing, and fair enough. But I think a lot of the times with these kind of things, it's about raising awareness not only with the students, but also their parents, and thinking, okay, yeah, of course you're going to reach students through social media and through schools and through the obvious routes, but are there other routes that you could actually be getting your company out there and talking about the great things? Because you never know who spots something and tries to get that in front of somebody. And yeah, my dad is now pretty sure I don't work for MI6. but it is interesting, isn't it, how you get it out there and how it's shown. So thank you. I'm just wondering if we've got a quick question that I can fire to anybody before we finish, because we have had so many. If you have got questions that you would like us to pass on, please do get in touch with myself and James, and we were really happy to kind of throw these over. Holly, you've had loads about the process, but I just wanted to finish off, Holly, if you don't mind, just a little bit more about your fast track days, how they work, and how you get people on them, just to cap off.
Yeah. So we, as I mentioned before, we partner with the Social Mobility Foundation, Into University, Amos Bursary, and I believe Bright Network also supported us last year. So we will just ask for candidates who are interested to apply via our partners. So there's a lot less of kind of, again, because we don't CV screen, it's not like we're looking for anything in particular. So we just ask our partners to make sure that they are kind of like providing the amount of people that we have normally targeted. I think we normally ask them to supply about 10 each. If they can find more, great. And then we'll kind of have that conversation. So candidates will turn up on the days. We will run them through kind of some interview tips. Appreciate it's quite a nerve-wracking experience, and a lot of them might not have interviewed before. So we'll do some interview tips, and then some current employees that have been through the fast track days and have been successful and are still with us. We'll come down and do a bit of a talk about their experience and any top tips that they will have, etc. as well. We'll then a networking, and then we go into the interviews afterwards. So we get volunteers from the business, and the way that it's set up is that candidates will rank, I think it's up to 3 choices of different areas they'd like to go into. We'll then allocate them, normally their top 2, but obviously it will depend on how many people apply for each role, but we'll allocate them 2 roles. And then they'll have like a 10-minute interview, and then a break, and then another 10-minute interview. So it's reasonably, in terms of logistics, it's quite an interesting one where we're trying to run around and get a fair amount of people into these different 10-minute interviews. But that is mainly how they're set up. So after that, we'll then receive feedback from the interviewers. The questions are normally sort of around kind of experiences, or that they'll have kind of one question that they will ask each candidate, because obviously 10 minutes isn't that long. And then we'll receive the feedback as to whether they should be put forward for the assessment day or not, and then we'll get the invites out to them as soon as we can. And anyone that doesn't get through is still provided with in-depth feedback, which is provided through the partners as well.
Thank you, Holly. And I'm so sorry, everybody, if we didn't get a chance to cover your questions today. We have had so many and they've all been excellent. But like I said, if you have got questions that you would like us to pass on to our panelists, please do just let us know. That is the end of our session. Flo, Holly, Sean, thank you so much for your time this morning. And a big thank you to Megan, who joined us earlier. And please do reach out if you've got any questions for us, if you would like to ask us anything, if you'd like us to put you in contact. Also tag us on LinkedIn, use that hashtag as I've been talking about all day. And thank you, everybody. We'll be sharing the slides and the recordings out with everybody so that you can watch this back and just get in touch if you've got any questions. But thank you once again to our panelists, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye all.